All right, hello. Welcome back. Preds Power Hour on a Friday afternoon. The first time it's just been Jeff and I. Brian Baston of On the Forecheck not here this week. He'll be back next week. So, hey, Brian. I know you'll be watching this and all that good stuff. But, Jeff, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for being here, Jeff. We have a lot of Preds stuff we want to get through here today, here on the Preds Power Hour. And we should start off with what happened last night against the Arizona Coyotes. Brian Baston, who we mentioned, our co-host here, he wrote a really good story over on the Forecheck that you can go read today. But what did you think of what Brian saw last night, and what did you see in the loss to Arizona?
I mean, Brian's usually pretty spot on. He called it their unluckiest loss of the season, which is probably pretty true. It's not like, I didn't watch a ton of the game, but it's they gave up a season high shots to the Coyotes, which is not great. I think it was like 40. Like their previous high was like 39, and then they gave up 40 last night, which it's the Coyotes, so that kind of tells you where they are at this point. And also the Coyotes have been giving them fits all year, which is crazy. It seems like that happens every year. But yeah, I mean, I thought it wasn't for a lack of offense either. I don't think. Like I think they got over 35 shots too, which is it's just two bad defensive teams going back and forth. It's a tough loss because that's one of the games that you have this season, or in this back half of the season, that like if you want to make the playoffs, you have to win, especially with Winnipeg faltering right now as they are. It's if they want to make the playoffs, it's a game they have to win, and the back half, or the back part of this second half of the season is pretty stacked in terms of opponents. They play Seattle twice, for example, and they play Colorado once or twice, and they play Vegas again, I think. Like it's really good teams. So yeah, I mean, they have to beat the teams that are below them in the standings, and they did not last night.
No, they did not. But it should be interesting to see how things go with Hines down the stretch and what he emphasizes. Do they even still like? I'm just very curious to see how this team handles being gigantic sellers and just kind of in this state of flux where I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of a weird vibe and a weird end to the season, because you could see this team fighting hard and being like with Forsberg back and company. Still with UC in the net, you're like, we can still sneak in to the playoffs, and it's like you already got all the picks, like you've already it's just I'm curious to see which way they go, if they fight and stay competitive, or they just really pack it in 1-2-3 Cancun. I don't know.
Well, the good news is that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like if they make the playoffs and they make the playoffs, it's whatever. I mean, I know that other fans and me personally, I don't really want them to make the playoffs. And I've, there have been people all over Twitter giving their thoughts on people who don't want their team to make the playoffs. And that kind of mentality. And, if you've heard it all year, and not even just from these people that are talking about it now, but a lot of people are like, why wouldn't you want your team to win? And, as much as I think, 4 or 5 games of playoff experience would be good for the young kids, like, what is that going to do? Like, the difference between winning a Stanley Cup with these guys is not 4 or 5 games of playoff experience in a year where they sold off everything. Like, that's just not realistic. And if you can make your roster better and improve your pick by even a couple spots in this draft, it's going to make all the difference. So, if they make the playoffs, then it's fine. But, if they lose a lot, then that's fine. But, it's there are a lot of people that are very divided, including myself, on this topic, just because, you don't want to see your team lose, but also if the team losing is for the betterment of the franchise in a few years, then maybe it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. But we'll see. We still have a lot of hockey left to see
Oh
which
yeah.
way they go. And nothing would surprise me with this team. Something we didn't touch on last week was Fabbro and Lincoln's extension for another year. What do you make of both? And if you're like, which one are you more optimistic about long term?
Um, Fabbro probably.
Mm.
I mean, you want to talk about a divisive subject on Preds Twitter, man. Dante Fabbro is that.
Why is
Um,
that?
well, he's a weird player. And Brian, I'm sure would you know have stuff on this too, and I have a
Mm.
little bit, but he Dante Fabbro, by the numbers, right? He's
Mm.
a very solid defensive third pairing guy. Like,
Mm.
and the one problem has been that he has not been able to live up to his expectations. Um, at least, the narrative surrounding him, he hasn't been able to live up to his expectations. But he's very like he's a in terms of not allowing high danger chances. Dante Fabbro is good at that. Like, he's an above average defenseman at that. But the problem comes when his mistakes they're not just mistakes. Like, they are very amplified mistakes. Like, he'll turn the puck over in the middle of the ice, or he'll throw it up the boards right to an opponent, and then they'll go score. Like, it's not mistakes that are little and you can't really see with like your eyes as the play is developing.
Mm.
It's one of those things where you're like, oh my god, that's a bad Dante Fabbro turnover. It's not like Dante Fabbro wasn't playing this defensive kind of play right. Like, he forgot to lift a stick, or like something small like that, instead of turning the puck over in the middle of the ice. And so a lot of Preds Twitter and Preds Facebook, I'm sure, I don't go on there very much, but um, a lot of Preds social media has come to the conclusion that Dante Fabbro is a bad defenseman,
Mm.
and that I just can't agree with that. For just he has, I'm willing to concede that he has not lived up to what he was supposed to be. He came in from college in 2018-19, and everyone was like, this kid's going to be great. He's going to be an offensive dynamo. He's going to be a great addition to the defense corps. He was expected to be what Alex Carrier was last year,
Mm.
and he wasn't that. Like, he wasn't very good in his rookie season, but he has gotten better pretty much every year since he's come into the NHL. And I think he's still young. So, and obviously the time for that excuse is running out. I think he's 24 years old. So, it's time for, if he's going to get it into gear, then he needs to get it into gear. But I don't see why he can't be a solid fifth or sixth defenseman. I mean, like, for all of his mistakes, he does play. He has done very well in certain situations, and for all the years that we watched Yannick Weber and Matt Irwin and Alexei Emelin, I would take Dante Fabbro 365 days out of the year over them. So that one I'm more happy about long term. I think Lankinen is just a stopgap. I mean, they're just waiting for Askarov to be ready. Um, and he's been good this year, so he deserves another contract. So, I am. It's good that they brought him back, because you're not messing with the tandem in Milwaukee, and you have a solid backup for UC next year.
Hmm. What do you do with Forsberg down the stretch here?
Honestly, I wouldn't push it, especially if it's something like pretty serious. I mean, it seems I think Hines said something about um, he was getting better and then he's been just kind of stagnant, like he hasn't gotten any better and he's gotten a little worse or something. Um, he said he thinks I think he said it was like more than just day to day. Um, so, you know, considering what they've done so far, they've brought in youth, sold off assets. Luke Evangelista looks good.
Hmm.
Like I don't think there's any reason to be like we need him back now. Like if he's dealing with something serious like a head injury, don't bring him back. Like having had a brother that has dealt with numerous head injuries due to the sport of lacrosse, I can tell you that rushing back head injuries are never a good idea. And you know, Philip Forsberg is the staple forward of this team, and rushing him back and potentially making your team worse because he's not good enough is just it's not worth it, especially with guys like Evangelista who are playing perfectly fine. Like there's not a need for Forsberg to be back. So I would just say hold him out until he's like actually 100%.
What do you think? Speaking, you mentioned Evangelista. Do you see him as a star here in Nashville? Do you think with the rebuild, it actually is going to work out pretty nicely in his favor? He's going to get a lot more opportunities than where they were headed before. How high are you on what you've seen thus far from Evangelista?
Yeah, I mean he's looked great. I've been really impressed. Second round pick. He's been he tore it up with London in the OHL, and at least I think it's the OHL. I don't have all my
Mm.
CHL leagues down, but yeah, I mean he did really well in his uh, D+1 year, and then came to Milwaukee and he looked good there. He's such a good distributor of the puck, and it's really fun to see because he's not only a great distributor, but he uses his speed and his hands, um, and you know he's able to find lanes that not a ton of people can, and it's been really fun to watch. So yeah, I mean I'm high on him. I think he's a top six forward, like at his peak. I don't know if he's full first line, because I think that's more of a down the road thing that you figure out.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch, and it was really fun watching him play in Vancouver, when he had those two goals because he just went to the front of the net, and and he's been really good with the analytics too. Like his individual expected goals have been some of the best on the team since he came up. So he's doing that. He obviously he could work a little bit on defense, but he's young, so I don't really care. Um, there's improvement that needs to happen, but like I said, I'm
Is he the
not
most
gonna rag on the
exciting young
kid.
Pred right now?
Um, that's a good question. There are a lot of fun, exciting young Preds right now.
Mm.
I'm not sure. I think recency bias would say yes, but man, when Cody Glass gets the puck, it's hard to really even Phil Tomasino, like both of
Mm.
them have been very, very fun. Like in Florida when Cody Glass made that no look behind the pass, like right to behind the back pass, right
Mm.
to Roman Yossi, who was cutting through the slot. Like it was a little bit ahead of him, but it was like dead on. It was like, Cody Glass isn't gonna kill you with his speed like Evangelista can,
Hmm.
but boy, he's got some instincts that I am constantly impressed with. Um, so I think for some that's a definite yes. Like there's I'm not gonna rag on anybody that says Luke Evangelista is the most fun Pred, most exciting young Pred right now. Um, but I mean, you can't ignore Cody Glass and Phil Tomasino. Even Tommy Novak has been he's made some highlight reel plays. So yeah, my answer to that would probably be Cody Glass, but I'm a big fan of, guys who can just find ways to get the puck to places that you didn't think could be possible. Like, I don't know. They just excite me. It's great.
Did it excite you, excuse me, seeing Chuck Fletcher being fired in Philadelphia today?
um, yeah, I mean, he he sucks. He so I covered the Flyers for over a year with Broad Street Hockey. I love everyone over there. They're so great. And I'm very excited that the site is sticking around after all the SB Nation stuff. They're making a new site, and it's going to be great. I'm super excited to read what everyone has to say over there. And so being an occasional writer in that Flyers market, I heard, and I'm still in contact with them today. So, I've heard a lot about Chuck Fletcher over the past year and a half, and yeah, he's pretty awful. So those two Pennsylvania GMs felt like they were getting in a battle of who could destroy their team the most. But yeah, I mean, it's good for the Flyers. Like, that is, I don't know how you don't come to the conclusion seeing that. Chuck Fletcher has made a lot of questionable moves. He didn't move JVR at the trade deadline. He brought in Brendan Lemieux for some reason. He signed that awful Ristolainen contract. The list goes on. Those are just the things that stick out to me and also are recent. But yeah, and they have deserved a better GM up there for a while. And yeah, the time had come. It was over. There was no way he was sticking around for much longer.
But it wasn't even like he was around a long time. Like, the difference with Sullivan, he's been around. Like, with...
Well, Hextall's Hextall was there Hextall's been there in Pittsburgh for, yeah, he hasn't been there for that long.
Yeah. I mean, he's been there for what do you think it is?
I want to say like 3 or 4 years.
I was gonna say like 5 or 6.
I don't know. There's a great there's a great tool that we can use, and I'm gonna use it right now. So,
because I'm curious, because like the thing, like, it's like, yeah, Chuck Fletcher was not good, and you move on, but like, it's just kind of a revolving door. Like, it's I don't really know why. Like, it's one of those you have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah.
If you're Flyers, because you're like, yeah, it's cool, but like, they've also been hiring really poor over the last several years, like most of my adult life. So you look at it and you're like, all right, well, just insert next bad hire here. Like, I don't know. I don't know if they deserve the benefit of the doubt yet.
So Hextall was brought in February 9th, 2021. So even less than that. I said 3 years.
Okay.
It's been 2 years for Hextall. So yeah, I mean, and when you've been on the job for 2 years and you have fans chanting "Fire Hextall," that's a big problem. 2018 was when Fletcher was hired. So yeah, it's 3-year difference, but that 3 years, man, the Flyers have not been good for a while. So at least 2018. I mean, I think the bubble was when, they could have won a series or two, but the Isles had to stop them from that. But yeah, I'm no Philadelphia Flyers expert. I leave that to my friends at Broad Street Hockey. They're great. But yeah, all I know is that Chuck Fletcher does indeed. He was not good at his job, and some of the excuses he made were really bad. For
Maybe
lack
Chuck
of a better
Fletcher
term.
to Pittsburgh and Ron Hextall back to Philadelphia.
Back to Philadelphia,
switch.
yeah.
They just keep switching.
Yeah, there was a fun story popped up on my Twitter feed. My friend Charlie O'Connor at The Athletic, he apparently asked Chuck Fletcher about what he thinks about fans and if they should have confidence in him. I'm paraphrasing here. If they should have
Mm.
confidence in him leading the rebuild, um, as was after the trade deadline, and I think Fletcher was a little rattled because he answered the question not very well, and then he went to another question, and then he went immediately back to Charlie's question and had to like try and like revive his statement. So I thought that was pretty funny and a pretty good example of the kind of things that are happening up in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, let's towards the end here. So we got Carrier out for 4 to 6 weeks. That's a big loss. We talked about
Yes.
Forsberg. He might not be back this year. I think that's something that we now have to consider is they're going to be extra cautious. They're not really playing for anything at this moment. I don't know. I wonder, like, you have another loss for the year. I always forget. How do you pronounce his name? Boro
Borvietsky.
Borvietsky. Okay.
Yes.
Do you practice this? You're from Nashville. How do you? I'm always terrified to go names. Even if I've heard on the broadcast, I'm still terrified.
Yeah. It's just a lot of watching hockey, and
There you go.
it helps that I don't have like a really hard Southern twang.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have friends that do, and it does when they try and pronounce NHL names, it just doesn't sound anything close. Like even if they have the kind of thing, like the kind of pronunciation right, like if you said Borvietsky,
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that would be like Borvitsky, it's not even close to what it is, even though
Mm-hmm.
it is the right pronunciation. So I am thankful that both of my parents are from, well, one of them's from the Midwest, and the other one's from the Northeast. So I don't have too bad of a Southern accent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Atlanta, but I still don't have anything. I
Yeah.
like I did the test growing up, and I had like it was always Kansas was your the way I
Yeah.
sounded. I was like, that's cool. I guess for my career, like it's good that you can't really tell where I'm from when
Hmm.
you're talking. But like my family, like my grandfather, great grandfather, it's just weird that they all had it, and my grandmother had this like old, super Southern, but very very slow and like
Yeah.
hello, like that kind of deal, where it was just very. It was very sweet, but like I didn't get it, and it didn't pass down. So
Yeah.
no Southern accent. So I'm always kind of part of me is like I wish I did have some sort of accent, but on the other side, I'm like I kind of am glad that I don't have to fight that or people have there's preconceived notions or judgment,
Yeah.
which is
It does help in this
always
business.
yes,
Yeah.
and something that I very much rail against
Yeah.
in my everyday life because it's not good.
Yeah.
Either way, with all those injuries being said, what do you think ultimately happens? Do you see more people getting shut down? Do you see more playing time for certain lines that have not gotten playing time to this point? How do you see the next few weeks looking in terms of that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I see. I don't know if Carrier comes back. If it's on the higher end of the uh the timeline, like that 6 week timeline,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm not sure I see him coming back. Maybe for the last couple weeks just to kind of get him back up to speed. Um, but it's I mean the end of the regular season is fast approaching, so they have to make decisions. Johansson's obviously not coming back. Um, Forsberg, no clue. Like they haven't ever since he's been hurt. We haven't known. Worvietsky, I don't see him coming back. He's been on IR all year. Um, so yeah, I mean, Carrier would just be the one that is interesting to me.
Hmm.
Just because it, I think it also depends on where they are in the standings by that time. Like
Hmm.
when that 4 week period hits, um, where they are. Like if they feel like Carrier isn't at a spot to come back, and he's they're not really close to the playoffs at that point. Like they're still 7, 8 points out with like 15 games remaining,
Mm-hmm.
and they've lost a couple of their games at hand. Like I don't see any point in bringing him back and risking another injury because he's already dealt with like 3 this year. Um, I don't think it's worth putting him up to that, even if it means he doesn't get that game speed back. Um, but if they are close to a playoff spot, and they've taken advantage of their games in hand. And Calgary hasn't done well. Winnipeg keeps faltering. Minnesota maybe stops playing that well. Kirill Kaprizov's out 3 or 4 weeks, so that's a tough blow. But if they are in a position where they need Carrier to come back, like I could see him back for a couple weeks. I think it just all depends on where they are in the standings. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm not sure. I don't want to give any definitive answers just because it's. I'm like the Preds. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think the Preds know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like I don't think they do either. It's been really weird. Like this isn't normal either. Like I don't think there hasn't been a time where I've seen an injury, at least with the Preds where we haven't gotten a good timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we don't really know what Forsberg's is. Like I think they said upper body, and when he went down, he hit his head on the ice. So that leads me to believe it's a concussion, but I'm also not sure because I'm not there, and I don't want to like speculate or anything. So if it is a concussion, don't play around with it. Like they don't need Forsberg that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting. Like, I think they do need Carrier that bad. Mm-hmm. Like they have enough skilled forwards to come in and kind of replace some production. You're not going to replace all of it, but they have forwards to replace some of it. But defense has been rough.
Yeah, and I don't see that changing down the stretch. That's one thing I would still bet on.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, the defense hasn't been good all year. It's been some of the worst in the NHL. So.
Do you just shut down UC where it's like, this isn't fair to you?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're so sorry. Here's some money. Here's some. I don't even know what because I was going to throw out Knoxville coupons for some local spots. Here's something for after.
They're bringing Pekka back for his statue retirement. That's his reward.
There you go.
And he gets to see his dad again.
Well, this has been great, Jeff. Thank you, as always, for making the time here on the Preds Power Hour. Brian, miss you this week. We'll have Brian back with us next week. What can the good folks check out from you over at Flames Nation, on the Forecheck, and everywhere else this week, Jeff?
So Flames Nation stuff's still going out. I have written, I think I'm trying to get a piece out every day, if not every other day. I had 2 articles come out, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and I had one. It was 2 days ago where I had 2 articles come out, and then yesterday I had one. So I'm trying to keep pushing the content over there. On the Forecheck, working on a Dante Fabbro piece that I'm trying to gather video clips for it. So that might be a little bit, but I want to finish it this week. I have some articles coming out for my student newspaper, so definitely check that out.
When are you doing class stuff? Aren't you in school, Jeff?
I am, yeah. It's during the mornings. I save my afternoons for the writing stuff.
Okay.
I have a bigger article coming out on one of the players at Miami who went to the World Juniors. So that was a fun one I did that I'm really looking forward to reading. Just because I don't like to read my stuff before it comes out. It makes me overanalyze. Excited about that. And then I have a playoff preview for the NCHC, which is the college hockey division that the Redhawks are in. So that's coming out too. I'll be posting all that stuff on my Twitter. So if you guys want to follow me at JJMid04, it'll all be on there.
There you go. Jeff, keep up the good work, my friend, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks.